So I'd like to introduce our Education Program Officer from the Division of Ocean Sciences and the Division of Polar Sciences from the National Science Foundation, representing her colleagues also, Lina Patino and Liz Baugher from NSF, Dr. Lisa Rome. And I just have to put it up.
Thank you, and I'm so excited to see everybody here today, and I want to really thank you for being here, taking the time to come to this. We hope that this helps us build a stronger community and that you leave here with lots of ideas and renewed enthusiasm for your REU efforts. But you're the people who make this all happen, and we really appreciate all the hard work you do, and we're grateful that you're here. So I'm Lisa Rome. I'm with Polar and Ocean Sciences, and this is going to be a tag team presentation with Lina Patino and Liz Baugher. I don't know where Liz is, somewhere around? Okay. And so we're going to run through a couple of things today. First, some news from Washington, just general things that are going on in Washington, some programs you might want to be keeping an eye on, and then we'll give you some more details about each of the divisions' REU programs. So first, we're going to be moving. This time next year, if you come to a meeting in Washington at NSF, be sure to check the address, because we're probably moved by now this time next year, but possibly in the old address where we've been for 20 years. So be sure to watch for a move. We are still operating under the American Competes Act of 2010 in general. They've been trying to update this for quite a while now, and we expect maybe they'll update it in 2017. It does have a lot of specific regulations for the REU program, and two of those that have really impacted the program are that they want us to recruit students who are from non-research institutions. So that includes, they want half of the students to be from institutions that don't have that many research opportunities for their students. We don't actually have a definition of what this is, but in general, if they don't have a PhD program in the Geosciences, that would be a non-research institution. They have also instructed us to track our students for 3 years past graduation. We have not been able to do that at an NSF-wide level yet. We're still working on it. We had a contractor come in and do a study of the different ways we might be able to do that. And they've recently reported out to us, and we're still in the process of considering how we might be able to track students a little better than we do now. And we've tried a couple of different ways, and we're still struggling with this goal. So other programs that you might find interesting at NSF are the undergraduate programs and the broadening participation programs. We have the IUS program. It's rolled out this year. There's an IUS umbrella. It's very confusing at NSF. There's this IUS umbrella that includes a lot of different programs, and then there's specific IUS programs within each directorate or division. The IUS EHR is a program you might be interested in if you are trying to change the way you teach in a class, develop a new course, try out some new teaching techniques. The catch with that is that you have to do some education research along with it. But they do have a separate geoscience panel within that. So if you're interested in that program, Keith Sverdrup at NSF is the program officer for that. And they have opportunities twice a year. So, and you can talk to me if you've got questions. The IU's GIPASS is run out of the GEO program, so we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but it's also focused on undergraduates, improving undergraduate education. Broadening participation, there are two new programs, the Includes program and the GOLD program. And Includes is run out of EHR and GOLD is run out of GEO. And I'll talk about those a little bit more. And also Polar has issued a Dear Colleague letter to collaborate with EHR on any sort of polar education ideas you have. We're working with both the undergraduate, the informal, and the K-12. So any proposals that involve polar education at any of those levels, you can come talk to me. Yes. Yes. I know, I'm sorry.
So EHR is
they're the Directorate of Education and Human Resources. So in NSF, we have our research house and our education house. And in the research, we have 7 directorates. And EHR is a separate directorate. And they actually have a separate pot of money. So. Includes. This is a new program. They've just made some awards. You can see what they awarded at a press release, which is 16-104 on the NSF website. They just funded these 37 projects. They're going to be additional. There's a program announcement out for additional opportunities in the future, and you should keep an eye on this program as some place to look for broadening participation. Gold, we are in the process of making awards from recent competition, and the gold is run out of the Geosciences, so it's Earth, Ocean, Atmosphere, and Polar, and those divisions. So I'm trying to limit my acronyms here, but so gold stands for Geoscience Opportunities for Leadership in Diversity. And we are interested in cultivating diversity champions within the community. So this is really a focus on leadership, faculty development. There are going to be some workshops and opportunities to participate in different efforts in the near future, and we'll probably be sending out emails about those and announcements. So keep an eye on that effort. GIPASS is a program that we've run for 2 years now, and so we've just had a call. We've just missed the deadline for that, but for next year, keep this in mind. We do anticipate issuing another program announcement, and the effort is really, it's all on undergraduates, and it's to increase the number and diversity of students who enter the geosciences, to prepare them for careers, and to build on and contribute to the evidence base of what works in undergraduate education. And there are 2 tracks, the extra track and the impact track, and we're trying to connect students with careers. One is sort of career focused and the other is sort of institutional focused, trying to help build the bridges that get students from high school to 2-year college to undergraduate and into graduate school. So keep an eye out for that announcement, and Lina and I and Liz can answer questions about if you have questions. So budgets for 2017, the official budget that came out, the president's budget that was issued in February, says that there will be decreased funding for REUs across the foundation. That's a roll-up from all the programs that fund throughout the foundation. That is an estimate, and so in GEO we don't expect any decrease in funding. In fact, we expect level funding. We're likely to have a continuing resolution every election year. Actually, every year now we've had continuing resolutions. So we'll just wait and see what Congress does, but we kind of expect a level budget this year. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Lina. And
good morning, and first of all, thank you for being here. We really appreciate. We're very excited to hear the conversation. So what I want to share with you is priorities for all of the Geosciences REU sites. Basically, we narrow it down to 3, and then there will be some specific ones for the different divisions. But the first one is that in Geo, we are really trying to push the REU model, right? We know that research is a great way to increase retention and completions of undergraduate students in STEM. But how can we do that better? How can we serve the new type of student that is coming through, right? The students that are coming through college now are very different than the students that we were 20, 30 years ago. So how are we doing that? What are the new models that virtual communications allow us to do in the REU arena? So that's what we are asking our community to think about, think a little bit outside the box, maybe take some risk, but if there may be some high payoffs and good consequences of those, not experiments, but new ways of doing REUs. And the other component is to contribute to the intellectual merit on what is an REU and how an REU can be run and should be run. Not only contributing to the science that the students and the mentors are doing, but also consider the REU as having an intellectual piece. We also like to hear, and as much as possible, to visit with the students, mentors, and faculty and PIs who present at professional meetings. So you have a table from your REU, just kind of the time and date of those presentations. We greatly appreciate it. I speak for personal experience. Many times I try to get to the students' posters, and on my way there, I get held back by somebody else. So I don't promise that I will go, but I would really like that I give priority to attending the student poster presentations or oral presentations. So just send us an email. And the last piece is that recruitment. In Geosciences, we continue to have issues with recruiting underrepresented students. We have made some important gains, and you will see some of the data shortly, but there is a long way to go. So we ask you to please pay attention to that. All of your REU sites were awarded based on the activities that you propose in when you submitted the proposals, right? And a big component of the evaluation part for the REU sites was the recruitment plan. So I will encourage all of you to look at those recruitment plans before you start recruiting and before you start selecting the students in particular, because you're not going to have problems recruiting students. You're going to get hundreds of applications to your REU sites, but it's recruiting the students that you indicated you were going to recruit is what's important. Okay, annual reporting. The REU sites that have been with us for a while have this message will make sense. NSF changed the system on what participants in any award should do as far as enter some information in the system. So when you fill your annual report, the individual students, and you enter their email address, they will get an email. And they are encouraged to go in and report their demographic information, because you should not be reporting that on their behalf. Now, that's a caveat there, because we are asking you all the time, so what is the demographic of your cohort? Did you meet the recruitment plan? So we are asking you to do two things, not reported in the report, but do tell us about it. But anyway, the students are not filling out this information. So at one point, we were asking you to fill out interim reports, so they will get an email while they were at the REU site, and then the hope was that they will fill that information by you prompting them to do it. But we have had 2 summer interns look at the data, and I believe that it is like 10–15% of the REU participants who are filling out this information. So really, it's not worth it. We are looking in other mechanisms on how we can collect that information and have it. And that's the last point, that Geo, we are asking you to push the model of what is an REU site, but we are also working internally and working with the coordinator for the REU sites at NSF on testing some pilots. And we are volunteering to go in and participate in those tests, because we want to make sure that whatever NSF decides works for all of you. Instead of having something imposed on you, we like to work with you on developing those mechanisms. And I see a hand.
One of my students and a couple of others also say that they think it's spam when they get the email, and that's part of the hesitation for doing it.
we understand that, and there are many different reasons why they may not fill it out. So we're not faulting the students, is that the mechanism that was imposed is not working for the REU sites, particularly because of the participants when you filled out the report. So we tried to have these interim reports to capture that data, but it didn't work. Thank you.
Sorry, we need to do the mic because this is being recorded. I'm not sure.
I think it would be really easy to do something during your orientation week if there was a web interface where the students could just go in and you could just say, everybody go in and do this. That would be really easy.
So that we'll take note of that, and whatever we develop and work out, we will consider that. Okay, so those were kind of the general news. So we'll go into the division news, and we'll start with AGS, Atmospheric Geospace Sciences. And Liz is here representing the program.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to put some faces to the emails and stuff that I've been dealing with. If you're not familiar with me, I am fairly new to NSF, but you'll get to know me over the next 2 years. So, our first bit of information for AGS is that the REU program is now centrally managed by one person, and that person is Manda Adams, who most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with, and I'm here filling in with her for her. So if you do have any questions, you can direct them either to me or straight to her. We do not currently have any international REU sites, and that's something that we would kind of like to bring into the AGS section. We understand that it does cost a lot more money and the budget needs to be a little bit wider, but it's not something that we are afraid of. So definitely start thinking about that, brainstorming, see if maybe it's something you can do or maybe you know a colleague that can do. AGS encourages more engagement with the community of college students, and particularly students in their first and second year in college. Recently, in the past year, we actually had a push for the younger students, and we had about 20% of our survey reported students coming from actually high school in looking into their first year of college. So that was actually really great to see, and we would like to continue to strive to do that. And finally, AGS will be moving to a uniform date for students to accept and decline an REU spot. And so what that means is that if a student is offered multiple sites, they do not have to choose the first one that they get offered. So I don't know if that makes you happy or not, but just trying to be a little more fair for the students. Here is a little bit of data that we've been working on. So the REU sites have been going on since 2009, and we do not have any data from 2013, so that's why there is a little jump in the graphs. However, if you've been here running an REU site, you would know that within Geo, and that would include AGS, Ocean, Earth Sciences, everything, females are usually dominant among REU sites. But here in AGS, it's actually more male dominant, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we're just kind of highlighting that. 2014 and 2016 were the only years that the females were dominant. Also, I'd like to highlight that 2016 we only had 10 survey responses out of 16, so our data might be a little off. And also, if you haven't turned in a survey, it's not too late. Feel free to turn those in. And I know we were just talking about them. Maybe you thought they were spam, but they're real. And next point is the minorities in AGS, obviously something in REU that is very specific to the students that we pick to represent our projects. Within AGS, we have seen a decline in the African Americans and an increase in the Hispanics. Again, we're not sure if maybe we're just missing a little bit of data from 2016 that's causing this. But for the most part, among the other ethnic groups, they stay fairly constant. And so that's good, but we just want to highlight that we need to continue to really engage these other students from other ethnicities.
Okay, the news from EAR, and this is what Liz was referring, we continue to uphold the request that participants don't need to commit to a particular REU site before March 15th. And that is for REU sites that are running in the summertime. We have a couple of REU sites that have a winter implementation date, so they're exempt from that rule. That will continue. The one new piece of information, and this applies to new REU sites, those who receive award letters in the spring of 2016 and later, there is a new requirement in the award letter that when I ask you for some information, you must return it. And that is basically related to the surveys, because in EAR, we are also a little bit delinquent in submitting the request of that information. So now it's part of the award letter, so it's part of the agreement with NSF. Again, just some demographics on the students that EAR is engaging. Since 2014, well, I only had data here for the last 3 years, but it's similar since 2009 when we had been collecting the information. We get more female students engaged in REU sites. If your REU sites indicated that you were going to be recruiting female students, that's a great outcome. But if you didn't indicate that, the implication was that you were going to aim kind of the student body population at 50-50 or so. So just pay attention to that we are not actually discouraging the participation on young male students either. And regarding demographics, I chose to portray this in a different way. I'm doing it by the types of institutions where the participants from the REU sites are coming. And in EAR, we have seen an increase of students from tribal colleges, which is great. We have also seen a significant increase in students from community colleges. Okay, that's that gray bar. And then we are not doing as well with students from HBCUs. I recognize that most HBCUs don't have a geology program or don't have sometimes even a geosciences program. But what I'm asking all of us to think is maybe is of innovative ways on how we can engage students from these institutions. Okay, so just that, we'll leave that to be discussed later on. And then as the American Competes Act from 2010 asked us to do, that most of the students should be coming from institutions that don't have research-intensive programs, I think we are doing a good job. That's that blue bar at the bottom of the graphs. Ocean Sciences.
So in OCE, we have a no repeats rule, which means that if you've had a student with a prior OCE REU experience, they're generally not eligible. I make lots of exceptions for this rule. But if your mentor wants to bring the same REU student that he had last year back to participate again, that's not allowed. But if there's a good reason for having a student attend a second time, I'm very supportive of that, and that includes first-generation college students, community college students, minority students, disabled students, veterans. There are a host of reasons why we might offer a second opportunity to students, but just check with me first before you accept that application. We also have the deadline of March 15th for students to accept or decline an offer. Any time after that is fine, but not before. The award letter also, the new award letters will ask you to report more information back to NSF. And you'll get some more data on that as we go along. This will be for the new awards. Question? Hi. Oh.
I really applaud EAR and OCE for putting in the March 15th rule. That's fantastic for students and wonderful. Is there any move to make an NSF-wide deadline that would include your colleagues in bio that routinely screw us over? Because my REU site has, this is being recorded, I shouldn't have said that. We have students, from ESB and bio, and the March 15th has been a fantastic thing for students, but if the countering program is funded from another division.
I will take that back as advice to our colleagues. We do have a committee. This is run, REU programs across NSF are run, each directorate has their own way of running them. And so I have no control over what bio does, but I can bring that up in our committee discussions.
It's hugely advantageous to the student to have the
Good.
common
I'm glad to hear that's working for you, and that's why we institute it. We just try to make a level playing field thank you. I will take that back. At least within Geo, we're consistent. First I want to thank all our REU PIs. We had 100% return on the survey. Oh my gosh, that helps so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And so we actually have some real data to show you. The 2016 data is the best data on this group. We have no data in 2013. And that we had some surveys, the student surveys from the summer. We did surveys in 09 to 12. The 14 data and the 15 data were taken from your annual reports, and the 16 data was your 100% return on the survey. Thank you so much. And as you can see in OCE, we don't have a problem recruiting women. We have lots of women. It's been actually increasing, and so I hope that we'll have I know that you get most of your applications from women and that they're always on time, and, but we are trying to recruit. We have a little more balance in our programs, so do try to recruit more applications from men. This is the minority participation data. The bar on the far, the dark bar on the right is the total minority participation in OCE only, and it's improving. It's going in the right direction. We're very excited about that. Hispanic participation has been steadily increasing, and that's good. But we're kind of concerned about the participation of African Americans, Native Americans, and Pacific Islanders. The numbers are, the percentages are important. In 2009, we have more students now, but so the percentages are down. The actual numbers are about level, but the percentages are down because we have more students. In 2009, we only had 200 REU students, and in 2016, we had about 288 students. So we're watching this data, and we're hoping that you can focus on those recruitment efforts for us. Two things. I want Matt Gilligan, who's emeritus at Savannah State, has been working with the Institute for Broadening Participation. He's been going to LS-AMP meetings and talking to the students at LS-AMPs and trying to get them to apply for REUs. And he's hoping that that will increase the number of applications you get from students at LS-AMPs. LS-AMPs are Lewis Stokes Alliances for Minority Participation. So, and so we're hoping that we can connect with students more at those meetings and get them to apply to our REUs, that a personal connection, knowing someone, meeting Matt might help. And we're hoping that Matt's going to be asking you for some data on your applications. And if you could respond to his request for data, that would be great. Very helpful to see if we need to continue this effort. It was a pilot program, and we'd like to continue it if it works. but we have to figure out whether or not it's working. Polar doesn't have an REU at the moment. So if you're interested in a Polar Programs REU site, I'm happy to, I'd like to talk to you. Each program considers REU supplements, so if your researchers want to send in an REU supplement or send in a new proposal with an REU supplement requesting money for students, that's great. We're encouraging that. And also, if you, as an REU site director, would like to include a student, an extra student, to work with a Polar Programs scientist, so someone who's got funding from the Division of Polar Programs, if you'd like to have an extra student work on a project with that person, I'm happy to provide supplements to your site from Polar. So that includes earth sciences, ocean sciences, and atmospheric sciences. So I'm happy to supplement your site proposals for extra students to work on a Polar project. And you can talk to me about that if you've got questions. So now we'll take questions. Maybe you should come to have the mic. Yeah.
Gracias. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this presentation. I'm interested if you could elaborate a little bit more on the international aspect that one of you mentioned in one of the slides on the international sites.
Well, I was just speaking for behalf of AGS that we don't have any international sites.
So here we have a couple of PIs actually running international REU sites, and basically it will be working with projects that are implemented abroad, and the students will, instead of implementing all the REU at your home institution in the States, they can spend 3, 4, 6 weeks abroad, then they can come back, or there are different models on how to implement that.
I'm glad to hear about the LSAMP idea. Washington State University has an LSAMP program, so can I recruit through WSU for LSAMP students to participate in my REU program at WSU? I'm breaking one rule, but maybe encouraging underrepresented minority student to participate. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it would be great if you encourage them to apply to the REU programs in general. And yes, you can recruit from, I mean, we always take some, you know, most places take 1 or 2 students from their home institution. So yes, but please, if you are at a LSAMP and you can talk to students who participate and tell them about our REU program, it's amazing to me that a lot of students don't know about it.
Before we hear the next question, Val just told me that we'll take one more question, and then we are going to be here for the rest of the meeting. We will be glad to address questions, and if there are enough interest, maybe we can have a small time for a plenary conversation on those questions later on.
Great, I guess I'm the last one. I know that you have constraints as far as when you can release funding, but I heard last night several new REUs waited a year. We did not do that, and so we had to tell our students, we're waiting, and we couldn't really let them know until May that they for certain could start. And we will be putting in a resubmission next summer, and I guess we'll be in that same boat. So I'm just wondering if NSF would consider funding earlier so we're not scrambling at the last minute and making students nervous as far as their acceptance.
Yes, so there are 2 steps to the process. First is notification, that there will be an intent to recommend for funding, and usually we try to do those early, January, February at the latest. Now, when the money actually makes it to your institution, it depends on when we at the program level get our budget, and that depends on Congress, when Congress passes the budget or the continuing resolutions. So again, I'm mindful, and I think we are all mindful of the timeline, and we try to do it as quickly as possible. I try to communicate with the PIs as well, but there are restrictions beyond our control.
great, lots of information. Thanks for the guidance. Okay, is Michael Hubenthal in the room? Okay, he was our timer. Okay, thanks. If I could just get out of here.